So hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. So my name is Prince. I'm a transcriber. I've recorded videos initially how to do transcription from scratch. After there, I have done other transcription samples before. So you go back to my YouTube channel and then check. So today, the long awaited times is here now. I'm going to give you a recording or a video of legals. So initially, I need you to understand what is a deposition. And usually a deposition is an examination wherein a party or a witness is questioned by an attorney in the case. So during a deposition, the witness is sworn in initially and answers all the questions asked. And then before that, you can get maybe the counsel is asked to introduce themselves, do blah blah blah, state their name, state their address and everything else. I'll take you through the guideline. After taking you through the guideline, I'll show you everything that you're supposed to know. I give you an outline before I start. So after there, we go back to our sample. I show you in every aspect of that that file or that rule that is in the guideline, how you're supposed to insert it in a legal file. Usually in a legal deposition, we have characters. We have the court reporter, the videographer, and then we have the attorney. Usually those are the lawyers. We have plaintiff attorney and the defendant attorney. So the plaintiff attorney, these are lawyer or an entity that represents a plaintiff. So a plaintiff is the suing party in a lawsuit. Usually these are people who sue someone else for damages. And then, so after that, we have a defendant attorney. Defendant attorney is the person who, an entity, usually the defendant, usually is the person or an entity that has been accused of committing a wrongful order. So you get that defendant has a defendant attorney who is going to represent him or her in that deposition. So either he may be objecting or the questions asked by the other lawyer or supporting his client. After there, so usually it entails a worksheet that has specific identities. Verbit, we have 3 types of deposition. Number 1, we have the ESQ deposition guideline. After there, we have an AP verbatim general guideline which has speaker names, and then we have the Nigeli deposition. So we are going to go through all of them. The Nigeli deposition guideline. After there, I'll take you through the AP verbatim general guideline with speaker names, and then we go through the ESQ deposition guidelines. After there, I'll tell you a few tricks how you're supposed to do other things. Sometimes you may get that you've gotten a client. After getting a client who is either taking part in the court deposition, and then he gives you a job. He sends you an audio, either 2 hours audio or 3 hours audio or 4 hours. It depends on the length of the audio. Then after sending you that, it requires you to convert that into transcript. So you'll see all the legal entities that are supposed to go there, and after there you'll be familiar with the legal terms. That is the most important thing, because you can't just go to do a legal examination when you don't know the legal terms and anything else. So you be conversant with the legal terms, so that whenever you do a job which is meant for the client, you provide high quality jobs. That is when you can secure a chance to get other jobs, or you can secure a chance to be given other transcripts or anything else, because the goal or at the end of this, you need to produce high quality transcripts, very familiar with legal terms and everything else, so that your client trusts you, and whenever he gets those files, their legal files never ends. There are a lot, because every day we have new cases. Sometimes you may get a rape case, or usually in a deposition we don't have those ones. Usually the cases we have is the divorce cases, and then we have business cases, and then maybe accidents and anything like that. So you have to stay tuned. You walk through with me, and then you see what is supposed to be done. You be very well informed, very well skilled to transcribe anything. So if you have not watched my video how to transcribe from scratch, you need to go back to there and watch that video, so that Whenever you get a transcript, you don't do what you think, bwana. Just go back, watch that how to transcribe from scratch, so that whenever a client sends you an audio that you're supposed to transcribe, you see the sites you're supposed to use to convert that audio into transcript, the corrections you're supposed to make in that transcript, and then you get back to your final transcript that you're supposed to send to your client. So stay tuned. First and foremost, this is an Igeli deposition, as I introduced you earlier. This is an Igeli deposition, which is a quick guide. I want to take you through what we are supposed to expect in this guideline and how we are supposed to handle it. So in the first place, those are the parenthetical formatting, how you're supposed to use them. I'll take you through all that because they are just down there. So if I scroll through, I have fill out mapper words. I'll take you through what is that is, and then we'll go through the cleanup rules, which are the most important things. We have the affirmative noises, how we are supposed to insert them. We have the starters, the partial words, the false starts. We have the filler words, utterances. We have the slang, dashes, ellipses, and spelling of names, how we are going to handle them in a transcript. After that, we'll see how we put interruptions in a transcript, and then we'll see how we do trail-offs, swear in. We'll see who swears in and how it is supposed to be done. After that, we'll see how we are supposed to transcribe now the interpreter or the swearing in of the interpreter. And then we have the QA and the colloquy section. So we'll see who takes part in the QA section, the colloquy. After there, the colloquy interruptions. After the colloquy interruptions, we'll go now to the order of examination, which we are supposed, of course, to start with, so that we know which are the kind of order of examinations that we expect to have in a transcript and what they mean. After that, we'll have the automatic bylines, that one. And then we have the speaker IDs, how we are supposed to insert now the speaker IDs. And then we'll see now the speaker IDs in colloquy. After the speaker ID, we'll go to the interpreters, how they are supposed to be handled. Then we'll see the paragraphing, the most essential part. After you have done with the transcript, how you are supposed to place your paragraphing. And then we'll see the audio disruptions, the phonetics. Sometimes you get a question that asks you, how are we supposed, or you get a name or something else that is not spelled correctly. How are we supposed to place, or what are we supposed to do? And then we have the glossary, the no inaudible response. We have SIC, which I usually consider as the SIC. So we'll see what it entails, because what is sometimes you get in the question when you have acquired a job or you have secured a transcript or a job in, to say, Verbit platform. You're supposed to, there are some questions you're asked before you get into the actual job, and you're supposed to score them 100% or all of them. So there usually you're asked which of the following is a SIC, or what we call a SIC. And then after there, we'll see how we are supposed to place the sound effects in the transcript, and then the noise interruptions. We'll see how we are supposed to place now the off the record session. We'll see what is the off the record and what it entails. And then we have certified questions and objections. After that, we'll see how we are supposed to mark the exhibits. After marking the exhibits, we'll see the questions, answers, and playbacks and readbacks. Playbacks, we understand what it is. The readbacks, what they entails. After that, we'll see the media played now, the audio and video, in case we play a video or on audio in between or in examination session. How are we supposed to transcribe it? And then we have the exhibits retained, the reaction, the reductions. We'll see now the punctuation and grammar, which is the most important or the most essential part, because in order for you to start a transcription, you must be very, very well with your English, your punctuation, your grammar before you handle any transcript. I have done a video of general guidelines of transcription, which you are supposed to go through so that you see what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to handle it. So stay tuned. We'll see the quotation marks, the commas, and then after the commas, we'll see the capitalization, the party names, job titles, how they're supposed to be done, the numbers, identifiers and quantifiers. We'll see the difference between those, how we are supposed to write numbers in time, dates, always in digits, and in decimal, money, anything else. That's how we are supposed to see. So welcome to my YouTube channel, guys. As I have introduced you, that is how we are supposed to go through. Usually I need to start with the basics. I tell you what a legal deposition is, the order of examination, and what we expect. A deposition, this is an examination that takes place in the court setup. So we have different types of depositions, as I've told you earlier. So what do we expect in a deposition examination? In the first place, we have the direct examination, cross-examination, redirect examination, re-cross examination. We have further direct and further cross. Okay, now in the direct examination, guys, we have the first attorney questioning the deponent, whom we call the witness. So usually after the introduction of the counsel, they have stated their names, the state, and who they are representing. Now we get to the QA section. In the QA section, I mean, we have the first attorney who starts the questioning of the deponent or the witness. He asks questions, QA section, they flow, and then sometimes we might have interruptions, what we call now the colloquy. Either there's an objection or the readbacks, the playbacks. After there, maybe the second attorney or the counselor, the attorney of the opposite side, now starts questioning the witness. Questions the QA, that is what we call now the cross-examination. After the cross-examination, we've seen the direct examination and the cross-examination. Now we have the redirect examination, and then the second part is the cross-examination. What do we mean that the redirect examination? Now the first attorney who asked the first section of the questions now comes back after the cancel of the, after now the cross-examination, where the second attorney has started asking questions. So the first attorney takes part the second time to ask or to proceed with these questions. That is what we call now the redirect examination. Now that goes without saying that recross examination is the second attorney taking part the second time asking questions. And then we have further direct and further cross examination. That is when now the first attorney takes part for the third time asking a question. So meaning that a deposition can be very long, and even be, let's say, 4 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, something like that. So in that the turn taking of asking questions, the first attorney, second attorney, first, second, that was brings us into the order of examination in the legals. After now the order of examination, we've seen the order of examination and who takes part in those order of examinations. Now we go to our in the speaker IDs. So in the speaker IDs, this is where we have now the colloquy sections, the QA section. We have the reporter. These are the characters that we expect to have the reporter. For the court reporter, we have told that is the person who swears in, read back questions, get correct spellings, ordering transcripts at the end. So sometimes somebody can say something, or he has explained something that we don't get it right. So that is where the court reporter or the reporter comes in, asks, what did you say? And then somebody asks, or we say that the attorney requests the reporter to play back they ask, the QA section that they have passed. Now after playing that audio that they have done earlier, that is what we call the playback. And then there is something we call the readback. Readback is where now the court reporter, after being requested to read that one, now he reads them. The court reporter now reads what will took place, and then we have the deponent. This is the person we call the witness, and then we have the videographer. The videographer or the nini, that is the person who announces the off, we are on the on or off the record at this time, we are back on the record at this time. So, and then calling a case, and then we have the interpreter. Interpreter is usually when we have a deposition from foreign countries. Let's say we have a French people or the deponent or anything else supposed to who was involved in that issue or the suing or the anything else. Now that is where we have the interpreter. When the attorney asks this, or the somebody else asks anything, or the court reporter introduces anything else, so that is when now that interpreter interprets his clients. So usually after being sworn in, they are the interpreter. And then before swearing in, we call them Mr. and Miss. So this means that before they are sworn in as the interpreter, maybe they are told that, can you, Mr. Vincent Osini, can you please state your name, your address, and the council you are representing, or the somebody that you are representing. Now that is when in that speaker ID we just place Mr. and or Miss, the last name. But after they have been sworn in, now onwards you don't place their names as the Mr. or Miss. You just insert the interpreter in that speaker ID section. And then we have an identified female or male speaker. That is when you don't know the speaker is speaking. Maybe you've confirmed the report section or anything else, and then you don't get the name, or you don't inform, or maybe we don't have the notes section. That is when you just write an identified female or male speaker. For any speaker who cannot be identified, the speaker ID require. And then usually in the speaker IDs for the colloquy section, we just write Mr. and Miss, the last name. Either let's say there is defendant attorney, or usually whenever he interrupts, he says objection to the form, objection what, we just write Mr. the last name, assuming that I'm called Vincent Osino. So you just write Mr. Osino, objection to the form, and then you place the colloquy section. Now, in the speaker ID section, we have the first part, the second part where we're supposed to place the QA and the colloquy something else. Here, we have a lot of things. We have the interpreter, the court reporter. That is when we write the reporter, the deponent, the videographer, the identified Mr. and last name, and then we have the paragraphing section. And then usually, what are we supposed to do when it comes to the interpreters? Now, conversation between the witness and the interpreter should be omitted. No notation is needed. So sometimes, after we've said something, or the attorney has said something, now the interpreter is supposed to translate that into his client or the witness. Now that one we are not supposed to transcribe. We just transcribe the English part, or that the English part that he presents to us. A legal job. Usually these are the platform is. At this section you have inaudible tab, you have a comment section, the glossary section, and then you have issues section, or where you make corrections. When you click here, you get all the mistakes that are supposed to be corrected, then you correct before submitting your work. And here you have the notes section. So what you're supposed to do is that you click every note section to open them, so that you confirm the spellings of people, the attorneys, the deponent, and anything else that is supposed to be confirmed, including the address, after checking the notes section. So in case the attorney or the deponent has said something, has referred to any document or any person that was involved in that examination or before that, which led to the deposition, all the names, all the time, all the dates are found in this document. So you have to open them, the spelling sheet, the you see the billing, the log, graphics, the notice, the notes, and then you check. After checking, and then if you scroll down, their names like these ones, everything is there. After there, we have a guideline section. If you click at this point, it takes you into the guideline section. So these are the general guideline for Nigeli deposition guidelines. So if you can see the speaker ID formatting, we have the title, and then the latest guideline says that even in the QA section, you just write Mr. the last name or Miss the last name. That is for taking attorney or the counsel of the opposite side of the attorney that is going to take in the direct or the redirect examine or the cross examination, I mean. After there, now in the witness section, you just write the deponent and then you write A. For this case, Miss Lawyer and the deponent, this is where there is interruptions or anything that takes place outside the QA section, or which we call the colloquy. That is why we have used the dash to indicate the colloquy section. And then in case you need to place a title or paragraph, you just click at this section, which I'm going to show you. So in case you want to change the speaker names in this, at this point, you can't make edits to the speaker section. So what you're supposed to do, you click at this point, you clear, you select this colloquy, and then you change for all. After changing for all, you are able to clear everything. That is what I told you initially, that you clear everything before you make any speaker changes. After that, now if you click at this point and then you select Q, it automatically places A the second part, Q for the third, A, Q, A onwards. So before that, let me show you what we mean lately as the speaker name. So assuming that this is Mr. Vincent, assuming the name of the judge is Vincent Osino, you just take the last name, which is Osino, so you write Mr. Osino in capital letter. You add, and then for the second part, you just write the deponent. You add. After adding now, if that is the QA, so for this section, you just select and it automatically changes Mr. Osino deponent. Mr. Osino deponent. After that, you just select QA. Then this clear. Let's assume you get Mr. Osino and then the deponent. Mr. Osino and then the deponent. So after that, if you come to this section and select that this Q, the rest of the speaker names changes automatically to QA. In case there is an interruption or anything else, that is when we consider the colloquy. And for that one, we don't place we just place Mr. or Miss, the last name, and then we just place this dash, which indicates the colloquy section. Now, I want to show you how you place your examination. For examination section, you just click at this point and then you select title. If you scroll down, there is unknown, title, paragraph, center. You select title, and then here you just select E, which indicates the examination. And then you just come at this point, you just write examination or direct or cross examination, depending on which examination you are in. So that is how we are supposed to indicate the speaker names according to the new guideline. So guys, after you've known how to insert the speaker ID, now let's go to the basics. Now we have the cleanup rules. What are you supposed to do in a legal setup? So in the cleanup rules, we have affirmative noises or feedback noises. So affirmative noises or negative noises. Sometimes we have the affirmative is when that indicates the positive. The negative noises is those ones. How are you supposed to transcribe? Usually they say that no affirmative noises or negative noises. Please use instead. There are some questions whenever the attorney asks the witness. Now you're not supposed to answer anything or say, you just accept. It's like saying yes or no. But instead of saying yes or no, now the witness takes part to say or So for those negative and affirmative noises, we have been told that no affirmative noises, negative noises, please use this instead. So for anything else, when he says those sounds, you just use or Sometimes he say so for those ones, you just use So from the attorney will not be included during the witness answer. And then feedback work, okay, all right, will always be included. After that, we have now status. Status is just stuttering. What do you mean by stuttering? You just say words that you're not completing, or you just repeat things. Those sounds. I, my, ne. So those are starters. How are you supposed to transcribe starters? Initially, the rule was that you're supposed to transcribe all of them. If he says starters even 10 times, you just place I, double dash, I, double dash, I, double dash, I, double dash, and then you just transcribe all of them. But now the things changed. These are they're supposed to. So first, when someone repeats the same full word multiple times, if one or two words starters are said 3 or more times, include only two instances. So I mean that for audio, let's say that I guess so. Did you say so? You just and now the final transcript how you're supposed to transcribe is I. So the first one and second, you just place the double dash. And please note that in the double dash section, you just place a space before you place the double dash and after the double dash. So you just write I guess so, did you say so? Even if it repeats 20 times, that is how you're supposed to transcribe. And what about the partial words? When someone says incomplete words, no partial words, omit incomplete words. So nowadays, this is like a clean read, a clean up. You're not supposed to write partial words. Initially, we were supposed to, even if he says that the co-host, you just transcribe those ones and then place the double dash. But lately, the guidelines have changed because they are trying their best to produce very all the high quality transcript that you don't have to read it now and then you just get confused. You just write complete words so that to avoid those partial words. So in case that the audio I went to the conference, you just write I went to the conference, meaning that these are clean read sentence produced. And then we have false starts. What are false starts? False starts is when you start a sentence and then you leave that one and then you jump to start another one. False start I've said what it means and then how are we supposed to transcribe them. No, so in case when someone begins a sentence and then quickly changes their train of thought, that is a false start. Usually we leave a false start. And how do we leave them? You just place that the first part of the sentence that you have said and then you place the double dash. And before you now in the double dash section I've told you that you place the space before and after. So these are do you, when did you, so how did, well, did you. So you see that he started do you and then after that he just left and jumped to another one, when did you. And you notice that there's no capital letter even if it's the second sentence. And then for filler words, these are, you know what, filler words, these are said but no substance. They don't make sense or they don't have meaning in that sentence. So you leave all filler words like, you know what, so in utterances never include non-content sounds. Those are utterances. Now in the utterances, these are oh, those are, now you're not supposed to include them in this. So what are we supposed to know about the slang, the dash, ellipses, and spelling? So slang, yours should be kept, others can be omitted. What is a slang? A slang is the shortening of the word. Instead of saying one to, one. Instead of saying going to, you just say gonna. And then instead of, let's say go to or go to, you just say gocha. So let's see how it is supposed to be transcribed. So for a slang section, y'all should be kept. Yeah, sometimes somebody can say y'all. So you just keep that one. But others, gonna, gocha, wanna. Gonna, you change it to going to. Gocha, you change it to got to. Wanna, you change it to want to. And then after this, so you just fix them to going to. If the speaker says yes or yep or some variations, please write that do not change to yes. That is a special. For interruptions, I say that for any interruption, just place double dash. And before and after the double dash, you just leave a space.
Now, let's say, for example, the deponent was saying that I don't believe so, and then Mr. Smith says that, and he said he was upset, or, and then the deponent just jumps into interrupt and says, no, you just place those ones because he was completing the sentence, or angry. You just place another double dash there, then you place angry. So for spelling out names and terms, it's so common that whenever he says that, we just place a dash in between the every letter, and then we just make them into capital letters. Wherever, for example, he says Sarah West, you just place Sarah West, but every letter becomes a capital letter, and then you place a dash in between the letters. Now, what about the swearing in? Always above examination line. So before we start the order of examination, we have the swearing in. Who takes part in the swearing in? The swearing in is when, say, somebody says that anasemaje bro? I've done the swearing in. So guys, let's see what grammar and punctuation entails. We are going to see how the exclamation point, the ellipsis, semicolon. So here they say never use an exclamation point that is often clear. And then we have the ellipsis. Do not put any ellipsis there. We have the semicolon. Use the semicolon for a tag question of 3 words. Is that correct? Do you recall? So sometimes after now the attorney says anything else before. Now when he introduces a question, that is when, is that correct? Is that what you meant? So you just place a semicolon there, and then you ask the questions. And then we have the tag questions. Forward tag questions will be in a sentence. These are what we mean. And then we have how to use the colony. Use the colony in the following circumstances: when my question was, and then you start with the capital letter, and then I asked you this. That is when you just stress on something, that maybe you say, my question was, will you do this? Or I asked you this, did you do it? That is when you use the colony. What about the periods? They say that if you have phrase, for example, can you state your name for the record, please? Or can you state your name for the record? Use a period, not a question mark. Okay? Percentage, we always write in words. So off the record, what I mean is that this is off the record discussion. What I mean, now in the deposition, after you are done with the QA, which is the examination section, the marking of the examination, the direct, the cross examination, the redirect, recross, and then now the interruptions, the colloquy, the confirming of forms, marking exhibits, and everything else. Now there's a point where now they want to go for a break. Maybe they have said that now they are out of all these examinations. Now the videographer says that we are off the record at 10:30 a.m. or p.m. We'll come back after delete everything. After deleting, you In the speaker section, you just click and then you write title. You select the QA section, you just select a dash, and then you put a parenthetical starting, and then you write whereupon in capital, comma, a recess was taken, and then period, and then you put your parenthetical. That is how you mark the off the record. You don't transcribe anything that is going on off the record, okay? Making off the record is that if you listen carefully at this part.
We will. Give us a few minutes.
Okay. The time is 3:34 p.m. and we are off the record.
Selecting here? No, not yet.
I don't think you're done, so.
Yeah, you can leave these, leave them all here. Yeah. They eventually go with me.
Right, I think we should tackle you.
Yes, that's true. I'm good at it
We need to
too.
get another cramp.
The time is 4:04 p.m. and we are back on the record.
Good afternoon.
So what I meant is that, as you can see, we have the videographer who said that the time is this and we are off the record. So we had that in this section where after she said that we are off the record, we had a conversation going on between the court reporter and other attorneys. So that one we just delete everything, and then what we just write is that whereupon a recess was formed. So this is how we are supposed to mark our exhibit. You select title, and then after selecting title, you come at this part, you select this dash which indicates a colloquy, and then you just delete everything, and then you mark as off the record by writing whereupon a recess was taken in the parenthetical format. That is what I meant. And then after they go back to, now after the videographer says that we are back on the record, that is when you start another conversation, depending on how the deposition or the proceed continues.
So what is phonetic? Phonetic is simply a word that you can't confirm anywhere. So simply put, if you hear a word or name but you cannot confirm the spelling, then please mark it phonetic. And how do you mark phonetic? Use that kind of bracket that you're seeing on the screen, and you write phonetic inside the bracket. So you literally, before marking a word phonetic, you have to research the word from the internet and the attached notes before marking it that phonetic. And you only mark it once throughout the job. If maybe the word used is ogwedegi and it's been used 20 times and you can't confirm it from the notes, you can't confirm it from the internet, the first ogwedegi in that job is the one you mark as phonetic. The rest of them you just be ignoring.
Now I need to take you through how we mark exhibits. Exhibits are like evidences or the forms that they need to confirm. Either they say that have you confirmed that after this you shared the emails? What did you have a conversation with Mr. Somebody in the emails, or did he send you the emails? After that you just confirm, and then maybe the attorney says, now let's mark this as exhibit number 10. So usually in exhibit we just use capital letter in words. So these are we are in the first place, in between the sentences or in between the text, we are supposed to write like this: exhibit in capital letter. If we say that exhibit number, N should be capital, and then we just exhibit number 1. After there, if after they have marked, they have confirmed the exhibit, and then we just write there, we click enter, and then after clicking and enter, we select the title. We select title. In the speaker section, we put our dash, and then we just mark like this: whereupon The parenthetical whereupon comma exhibit 1, exhibit 2 were marked for identification. Or exhibit number something were marked for identification. So that is how we mark our exhibits. So this is how we do. Let me do it in a demonstration.
At the top right hand, what exhibit number are we on now? 103? Oh, yeah, we're ready. Hand you a copy of what I'm marking as exhibit number 103 to your deposition. You can identify this for us.
Yes, so this is the company.
So as you can see here, say that I'm marking as exhibit number 103. You can see E is capital, N is capital, and then the number, which is the exact exhibit. So after marking that, you just come to click here, you select title, and then you select the dash, which indicates the colloquy. Then you mark the periodic parenthetical, and then this was supposed to be written as whereupon exhibit number 103 was marked. So this one should be close, I guess. Don't mind these arrows. So you should paragraph all these under 4 circumstances. Number 1, when a new topic is introduced. Number 2, when a new person is being addressed. Number 3, when if the speaker says strike that paragraph is you what. Unaziona hizo? Ya 4, which is the most important part, ni if a speaker turn is lengthy, more than 5-ish sentences, please paragraph in a logical place. So let's go back to our transcript and then we see what you're supposed to do.
And I believe I'm pretty sure, because I think he was fairly active in faculty governance, that he may have been on the faculty senate at some time.
And at some point you can assume that one because this is an NIGEL deposition guideline.
I believe I'm pretty sure faculty governance, that he may have been on the faculty senate at some time, or maybe the university personnel committee. I sit in on the
So in our section of paragraphing, we were told that if the speaker turn is lengthy more than 5-ish sentences, please paragraph in a logical place. So you come to this. This is our first sentence, the second sentence, the third is long until this point, and then we go to the fourth.
I sit in on the faculty senate, and I also sit on the university personnel committee. The one thing that stood...
That is the fourth, and then the fifth. We just click enter, and then we come to this section. This section, we have the paragraph. Okay, this part remains that way. You don't add anything. I hope you get that. So we follow the paragraphing rules. Number 1, if a new topic is introduced. Number 2, if a new person is being addressed. And number 3, if the speaker says strike that, the rest of the things, blah blah blah. And then the most important part, when all this or our paragraphing does not meet the first 3 criteria, you check for the fourth one, which is if the speaker turning is lengthy, more than 5-ish sentences. Even the second part, if it goes more than 5 sentences, we'll keep on paragraphing. Let's continue.
He told me something that I thought was pretty remarkable, knowing that Pacific isn't in the top, rated universities every year, that it was, I believe, he said his daughter had applied, and Pacific has exchange agreements with other universities. So if you're a faculty person or staff person, you work at Pacific, your son or daughter can go at reduced rates to Pacific or affiliated universities. Most students pick places that are like in the Northwest, in Washington, Oregon, maybe California. And Richard, some way we were talking about transfer, and he said, gee, my daughter got accepted. My daughter got accepted at the University of Southern California at this exchange, and I thought would be like there would be few seats. Would be like there would be few seats for a student from Pacific because they like an exchange. How many students that their parents work at University of Southern California have ever come to Pacific University? Probably none.
So this is our first sentence that ends where, oh, it's long, it's lengthy, guys. First one, the second one, simnisaidie bwana. Mbili, ya tatu, ya nne tukuja wapi? Ya nne? This should be 5. He told me Pacific tafuta hadi hapa moja, ya pili hadi hapa, ya tatu hadi hapa, ya nne ndo hii tunaongelelea, ya nne hadi hapa, ya tano hadi hapa, ya tano. And then we click there, we clear, and then paragraph. Tuendelee.
University, probably none. And so I just remember that, and so I had a short conversation with him. There's a lot of faculty on all the different campuses, and so unless they were in leadership roles, I probably didn't get to know them very well.
Okay.
So that is how we do paragraphing.
Prior to the incidents that gave rise to why we're all here, had you ever heard any sort of rumors about Dr. Paxson having any sort of problems?
I can recall no rumors. I think it would be very rare. Most things, if there's things happening in the college, most things are taken care of. If there's things happening in the college, most things are taken care of, I think, by their faculty. But because I can't think of, you might be able to name some people, and I could say, oh yeah, I heard something, but I don't recall that. I don't recall that it could have happened, but I can't remember anything.
Is that because generally, if there was a problematic employee at Pacific University, that the issue would be dealt with? Instead of, say, for example, letting an employee with an employee who's engaged in wrongful conduct, letting them continue to engage in the wrongful conduct, and that, that's why the rumors were out there. Is it accurate to say that instead Pacific would take care of the problem?
I couldn't make a general statement.
Is it accurate to say that instead Pacific would take care of the problem?
I couldn't make a general statement of that.
Maintain employees to keep.
I couldn't make a general statement of that.
Do you think it was the policy and practice of Pacific University to maintain employees, to keep them on faculty who were, for example, sexually harassing anyone?
To keep them
employed?
I think there would have to be, somebody looking in. There would have to be, somebody looking into it to make a decision like that.
Okay, so if somebody did look into the allegations or the rumors, to the allegations or the rumors, do you think Pacific University would be inclined to find a resolution to the problem, including termination?
I think again, it would that could happen in circumstances that could happen in circumstances that were such that would be a recommendation. I think you could that would be a recommendation. I think you could find that. I think something about harassment or whatever can be very serious.
Right. And
I think you could find that. I think something about harassment or whatever can be very serious.
right. And if a professor were accused of something like if were accused of something like harassment, that would certainly be documented in their personal file, wouldn't you agree? Wouldn't you agree?
Again, I think it would be, I think you need to talk about what the practices were, if it was a severe sort of thing, or, you know, how that was resolved, if there was something that was happening and somebody got talked to or whatever, you know, some of that at some point could get there. There may be some of that at some point could get there. There may be, when you're talking about it, I've been in situations where somebody's alleged that, and then after you've looked into it, it wasn't what people thought it was. Now I can't give you, well, what was that? Now I can't give you, well, what was that example? I just know when give you, well, what was that example? I just know when you're talking to me about it. I just know when you're talking to me about this that through all my time, I've been surprised about things like this. So I think so I think some things may not get totally written down there, but somebody may in their minds remember it, or maybe they wrote themselves a note and put on their desk or something, some way to on their desk or something. Some way to remember this, or talk to somebody else and said, you know, let me know if this happens, but I don't think this rises to a place yet that needs to be in their personnel file. Again, in their personnel file. Again, I'm giving you hypothetical stuff here.
Well, as a general sort of good record keeping practice, if an allegation that was serious enough to be if an allegation that was serious enough to be escalated, say to the dean or to the provost, if something like dean or to the provost, if something like that happened, would you agree that that should be documented in somebody's personnel file?
Possibly. The timing is, you know, you're giving me another. The timing is, you know, you're giving me another. Possibly. The timing is, you know, you're giving me another. And I'm trying to think, well, what if another? And I'm trying to think, well, what if you hear this and then it sort of. Me another, and I'm trying to think, well, what if you hear this and then it sort of seems to be resolving itself. You didn't write it down, but then something comes back later that there's no doubt about it, sort of thing.
Right. No, I think I understand what you're saying.
Sort of thing.
Right. No, I think I understand what you're saying. So are you saying that if it ends up in the personnel file, it should be something that has an allegation that has been proven, an allegation that has been proven.
Not necessarily. It depends on, to prove it, something you have to have. It depends on, to prove it, something you have to have. And to prove it, something you have to have. And it depends on, to prove it, something you have to have an investigation go deeper. It may be just something that you tell the person, you know, maybe you're telling them, hey, I'm gonna have to put this down, person. You know, maybe you're telling them, hey, I'm gonna have to put this down, you know, in your personnel file or something. Again, it's hard for me to say without it's hard for me to say without knowing. Here's what happened, or you were there when this happened, and if I were looking into this, as you're saying, I'd be asking some of these same questions probably.
And you just said that it's hard to prove something without an investigation, correct?
Well, I would think so, unless somebody says it is, or there could be some things that are, it's so clear. Again, when we're talking about this, I'm having to speculate, and I don't like to do that, and, you know, to give you the wrong impression.
Well, you don't have to worry about the impression you give me. I'm just
Okay.
trying to figure out what the university's policies are. You said maybe you don't need an investigation if it's clear. Are you saying that some people, who make allegations should just automatically be believed?
I wouldn't say automatically. There may be evidence that there may be witnesses to something.
Wouldn't witnesses and evidence come out of an investigation? Wouldn't witnesses and evidence come out of an investigation?
Well, maybe they'd come forward already. Maybe it's almost simultaneous. It's almost simultaneous. I don't know. You don't want to jump to conclusions. You want to, you know, get all the data that you can for these situations. You may need to consult with somebody else and say, here's what I've heard. Here's situations. You may need to consult. You may need to consult with somebody else and say, here's what I've heard. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. You know, get some guidance. There's a lot that goes into these because, you know, you're trying to do the very best you can. So I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the individual. So I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the individual that you're telling me is some things are coming to.
In your history as an educator and as an administrator, have you ever, besides Dr. Paxton, known about a professor who was removed from teaching prior to any investigation because after just a few classes, a group of students complained about what he said in class?
Again, my memory isn't going to be good for questions like this.
Is there a certain area I should focus on where your memory is better?
No, you can ask me these things, but when you say, I can't, these are things that I haven't, these are things that I haven't put in my memory to be, can I think of a time where this particular thing occurred. I'm just being honest with you that those are now things back here, and unless they were maybe some things in the newspaper or something that they drug on for a while, I'm thinking, what could I remember? And in this particular case that I'm here for, this was not a particular case that I was that involved with while I was at Pacific.
Okay, but I'm just asking because you have so many years in the business, and in the business, and would you agree in the business, and would you agree there's a Let me ask you this, and in your history, ask you this, and in your history working at universities, were you ever aware of a faculty member being removed from teaching because he brought a cheeseburger to class and it smelled bad and students complained?
No.
So you answered that question and you answered it no.
Well, it's, I think that would stand out.
Right.
The one you gave is, you know.
Are you familiar with the concept? Are you familiar with the concept of academic freedom?
Yes.
And do you think that academic freedom is important at a university?
Well, it's sort of in the blood. You can't have, in the United States, you really can't have an accredited university that does not have academic freedom.
Do you think that if the university works to destroy academic freedom, that it should lose its accreditation?
There's a process where that happens, and at the time, in 2021, we were preparing for another visit by the Northwest Accreditation, and I was given, and so I don't know what happened there. I was confident everything. I don't know what happened there. I was confident everything was going to go well. I was going to be happened there. I was confident everything was going to go there. I was confident everything was going to go well. I was going to be there, but there's some things in their requirements, and
So guys, according to Nagel's deposition guideline, we are told that we should paragraph in these 4 circumstances. Number 1, if a new topic is introduced, a new person is being addressed, if the speaker says strike out and blah blah blah. And then the next thing and the most important thing, which we usually use or we usually see as a guide, is that if the speaker turn is lengthy or more than 5 sentences, place paragraph in a logical place. And then the first thing, paragraph after every 2 to 3 sentences. So you can do paragraphing after 2 to 3 sentences. But usually when you see that the flow makes sense, and then what they're talking about or what is explaining or she's explaining makes sense, so you have to leave it until 5 sentences. So you come there, there's a process that happens, that is 1, and the team there, that is 2, then the third one ends here, the 4th one, and then the 5th.
there's some things in their requirements, and in fact, because this particular requirements, and in fact, because this particular case was in the news, they learned of it and they wrote to the university to respond to these things that had been shared. And I did see that that had been shared. And I did see that.
So after the complete 5 sentence, we paragraph and then we come to this and select that. Simple.
And I did see that Dr. Lisa Karstens, who was in the provost office as an assistant dean, she was leading our reaccreditation. She was the former dean of the College of Accreditation. She was the former dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. And I don't know, I never asked. I've only visited with my executive assistants, who became good friends. And I don't think I've seen them in a long time. So I didn't find out. Maybe they told me how that came out, but I would have heard it if they weren't accredited. So I know that the university was in compliance, as far as I can tell, with that particular requirement when Northwest visited in, probably it was 2022, maybe it was 2023. 2023, and she wrote that.
Who wrote?
Gave them that information. You all that.
Who wrote?
Gave them that information.
Who wrote?
Gave them that information. You all would have to check on that. I didn't.
Well,
That.
Who wrote?
Give them that information. Give them that information. You all would have to check on that. I didn't
well,
ask about it.
believe it or not, Mr. Well,
Ask about it. Ask about it.
believe it or not, Mr. Miller, I've never heard about this before. Miller, I've never heard about this before. So are you saying that an accreditation organization wrote to the Pacific University and said that the suspension of Dr. Paxton was a problem?
No, they just said, hey.
Dr. Paxton was a problem?
No, they just said, hey, somebody's given us this. Hey, somebody's given us this information, like through the news. I don't think it said what I saw in the news. I don't think it said what I saw. It didn't say, because I didn't see what they said. What I saw it didn't say, because I didn't said what I saw. It didn't say, because I didn't see what they wrote to us. I only saw Lisa's. Didn't say, because I didn't see what they wrote to us. I only saw Lisa's response to their inquiries about our guidelines and what was going on. So when you ask about accreditation, yes, we're in compliance. As far as I know, again, when I left, we were. And as far as I know, again, when I left, we were. As far as I know, again, when I left, we were. Compliance. As far as I know, again, when I left, we were. And when I left, we were. Again, when I left, we were. And I think I would have heard if they were out of compliance, because they had what happens is probably during COVID, and I'm not sure if they, in the old days, people used to come. In the old days, not sure if they, in the old days, people used to, in the old days, people used to, in the old days, not sure if they, in the old days, people used to come, a team, and visit your university and go around and talk to people. And remember, this is also 2021. People. And remember, this is also 2021. Part of me saying, hey, this is also 2021. Part of me saying, hey, because I'm wondering, why don't I remember some of this stuff? And I'm not sure this is it, but I was seeing everybody on Zoom or over the telephone. And so the accreditation came again through some part of Zoom. I think I wasn't there when it happened, but But yeah, I did see that. I did see that. I didn't read it that carefully, but I saw that, and I did see that email.
Did that concern you at all? Did that concern you at all?
No.
So for questions and answer playbacks and readbacks, this is where the taking attorney asked a question, and then the witness or the deponent has answered, and then after the conversation has flown to a certain level, the attorney asks the reporter to repeat a question or answer that happened early in the proceedings. So if the reporter reads himself, the reporter reads the questions back, this is what we call a readback. And if the reporter plays the audio of them, of that section, that is what we call a playback. Now, how do you mark it? As usual, you just, instead of transcribing that thing, or that section that has been played back, you just click enter, you select your title, you select your dash, and then you delete everything that is played back. You just write parenthetical whereupon the record was read back if it's a read back. If it's a playback, you just write the record was played back. If it's for the media or audio played, you just click enter the title whereupon the audio was played, a video was played or an audio was played, exhibit was marked. So that is how you mark the exhibit, you mark the playbacks and readbacks, and then you mark the off the record. For numbers, dates, always you just do like this. It's different from the general guideline. Usually in the general guideline for time, we just write in capital AP or AM. But for this one, you just include the periods. You just write AM, PM, you include in small letters, and then you include what? For range, it should be 9 to 5. But for general guidelines, we usually write 9 and then dash to 5. For time format, you usually write in words, or you write in this format. You write in either 5 o'clock in words, or you write this way. For date format, you usually use a forward slash, or a slash, I mean. And then partial year, these are common, so it's used. You use the apostrophe. I guess that is what the rest of the things, it's what we know from the general guidelines. So go through it. I'll do an AP deposition guideline. I'll do an ESQ deposition guideline. For NIGELs, this is what we have for today. Thank you. Please subscribe. Subscription ni kitu ya kunyima mtu kweli bwana. Piga hiyo subscription.